So we're at 11:31. We like to start these on time because they're really quick. So Deb, no further
All
ado.
right.
Go for it.
Without further ado, okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And yes, to answer someone's question, it is getting recorded. And so if you're not able to stay or are multitasking, which I'm really horrible at doing, so then it will be sent to you. So again, I'm really excited about talking about this. When Pete asked me several months ago about doing strategic planning, it's something that I think a lot of us we are starting to think about a little bit more, but I think there's a lot more into strategic planning than just kind of like, how am I going to set up the company for, 2025, but it's also kind of beyond that. But it's really taking this 30,000-foot view, as I say, flying this plane, but really trying to capture a 300, foot roadmap and to make it really applicable to your business. So we'll kind of dive right in. So I always focus on people, processes, and technology. All three of these things are really the heartbeat of your company and really will help move move it forward. You can't, if you think about it, especially in property management, I can't run my company without these three being harmonious together. I need people to help. It's a very people-centric business. As much as we want to use AI or even just all technology, somebody still has to manage the residents, the owners. There's a lot of that involved, and then processes is really what helps keep us grounded and structured and really focus. Pete, I don't know if I asked you, how much time do I have?
You got about
So I
30, Deb.
Okay, all right, that helps. Okay. So how to plan for 2025? Obviously, we're going to kind of go over some steps, but looking at the importance of strategic planning, why I feel like we need to really think about when we should be doing this, how we should be doing this, setting goals that are actionable. I do think that there's goals that we have. There's ones that are really attainable, and then we should have some stretch goals as well, because sometimes we can move beyond those that we have in front of us and really want to focus on some stretch goals as well. Always staying ahead of industry trends, or really just being aware of what's going on in the industry is really key. I remember when I started off, it's been like 25 years or so ago in the business, this was all so new. NARPM was, if you're part of NARPM, that was really in its infancy. There was not this collaboration of like-minded individuals. Again, technology has come a long way. So Facebook has come a long way. All of those things have encouraged people to kind of now talk and gather together. So staying ahead of industry trends wasn't really a thing because nobody really understood what were the industry trends back then. We were just trying to stay above water in our own market. Identifying growth opportunities. So that's always important. Sometimes it might be a new pillar in your business that will help you reach that next level. Or it might be an opportunity that that comes along with a different type of owner. And so looking at who is in your portfolio today and what you're looking to do. And then create a culture of innovation. I always say that we have to be changing all the time. We can't remain stagnant. I think a lot of us know that now. And change is hard for some. And we need to kind of always promote change and innovation to be better than ourselves. Your biggest competitor is not really the mom and pop. It's not really the self-doer or the other property management company. Your biggest competitor is yourself, and always trying to improve your own metrics and your own goals and actionable things. Okay, aligning goals with your organizational visions. All right, so I can't tell you how many times I see a lot of companies I work with that don't even have a mission or vision statement. A lot of companies, ironically, will have core values or presumed values, like, oh, I'm trustworthy. We want to be honest. We want to be transparent. That's a kind of a buzzword, but really we need to understand what the mission of our company is, what the vision of what we're doing. And this is all part of the type of properties we manage, the type of owners that we want in our portfolio, and what our core values and how we work those core values every single day. So we definitely need those guiding principles for everyday decision making.
Yeah, we got a question
Implementing.
here. Got a
Oh,
quick
go
question.
ahead.
Can you give an example of a mission? Not to put you on the spot.
Oh, wow. I can give an example of a mission. Let's see.
Gonna go to
Who
your
would,
website and find your mission.
well, I actually, you're gonna laugh. I'm gonna pull up, who do I always, um, yeah, that was good. I probably should have had this, ready. So I was actually going to think of Disney's mission because I always think of Disney or Apple or some of these big companies. And I know that's not really quite applicable, but at least, I mean, again, they don't operate without a mission statement. Disney's is to entertain, inform, and inspire people around the globe through the power of unparalleled storytelling. And Nike's was to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. So you can see that that's kind of exactly, if you think about it and know Disney, that's exactly what they do. They entertain and they do it through storytelling, through their movies and through cartoons and everything. So, and through Disneyland and Disney World. So if you go there, it's all about the story and the experience as well. And I think that would be, again, so that vision statement has to be, or the mission statement is different from the vision, obviously, because the vision is more like thinking through what are we trying, trying to bring into the future of our company. But the mission statement is, are we improving lives? Are we spreading ideas? Are we like, what is it you're trying to establish as a company today? And what is our mission today? To bring technology or to bring customer service or the customer experience to everyone in the Little Rock market or something like that. So that will be something like a good mission statement. Go ahead.
I
Oh, I
was
thought
gonna
you were going to
say,
say,
I
okay.
just thanks.
Implementing SMART goals. So again, SMART goals, you need to be specific. So any kind of goal needs to have kind of like the starting point, a middle point, and an end point. So be very specific, be very clear, and make them measurable. So a goal has to be attainable, so it needs to be measurable, so it needs to be achievable. It has to be relevant, so it can't be too far-fetched, and it should have a deadline. So it needs to have a timeline to that. A goal would be, in 6 months, we want to increase our NOI by, and again, make it reasonable. So 12% or less, or 5%, or, what would make sense to say, what can we do in 6 months? And keep in mind, a lot of things take traction. So, and how are you going to measure those and keep track of them? Okay, so I kind of created my own little acronym called Roomba. And Roomba is a framework for clear expectations. I'm really particular when I talk to my clients about expectations, because a lot of times we set these goals or we have things in our mind, but remember, people can't read your mind. And so unless you tell your employees, your owners, your residents, if it doesn't say it on your website, what you're about, what your expectations are, nobody can, nobody's going to know. So they have to be reasonable. So they, can't be too convoluted, too far-fetched, or too out there. They have to be understandable. So I always say, keep it simple and straightforward. Don't make it too difficult. And measurable. Again, I'm always going to kind of go back to like our KPIs and our metrics, and they have to all have some sort of a metric involved with those expectations. Here's another example of one would be, I expect all work orders are to be touched within a day. And hopefully that's a reasonable expectation, right? Now, you could even go further and say, I expect all work orders to be touched same day, unless it's after 4, it can be touched the next day by 10 a.m. Like, you're setting a very clear expectation, because we know that after 4, you're probably still busy and wrapping up and having end of day meetings and doing end of day reports. So it may not be reasonable unless it's fire, flood, or blood. So unless it's an emergency, that's the exception, right? So there might be an exception to a rule. But that's something that's very clear and concise. It has to be believable, so it has to have some merit into it. And I think that would be a very reasonable one. Oftentimes, again, we just assume that people are like, oh, work order comes in, they know to open it, or they know to look at it. Not necessarily. Sometimes they don't touch it for 2 hours, and you might be going, why is this work order still in open, like, or new status, and it hasn't even been looked at, or a conversation hasn't even been engaged with the resident to say, hey, I need more information, or I need some pictures. At least something started, and it could be in a pending status of some sort. And again, it has to be an attainable, again, expectation, very realistic. So kind of keep that in mind. Roomba, it's kind of like a dance. Roomba. Keep
I
your
always think of
expectations
I'm
dancing.
always thinking of the little circle things that go around your floor and clean it.
Well, that's kind of where it came. You're going to laugh. That's actually what it came from. What's that? I'm like, does Roomba know my expectation to go over there into that corner? So, and it learns it, but unfortunately I couldn't program it into that. And I'm like, oh, dang it. But it's kind of the same for people. Again, when I'm talking to employees, because I do part of my process is I'm interviewing the team, I'm kind of getting a sense of what's going on. And I'm asking them very specific questions, like, tell me how you do a work order. And it's interesting to, when I'm listening and I'm looking for like some of the gaps, like, and I'm, I'll ask some questions, some better find out questions on, the process. Sometimes they just forgot because, again, it's kind of assumed that, well, it's very elementary. This is what I do. But I really want to understand is, do you have an expectation of when something needs to be addressed? Or a common one that a lot of people do have set in set in stone some way, is to say, I want my work orders done in 3 to 5 days. And we're seeing this new metric come along with these operational KPIs that the average is actually 6 days. But again, the goal could be 3 to 5 days. It might be 6, but at least the team understands the expectation. So
Do you build a Roomba for by department or by job role, or could you do both? And is there like a
you
rule
do it.
you found, like how many Roombas can you have?
I think that's a really good question. So it's kind of like KPIs. So I really no more than 3 per role. Here's the thing though, expectations are a little bit different than KPIs. I would say that KPIs are no more than 3 per role. Expectations have to be, so, okay, here's the best way I can explain it. When you have a job posting, which is different than a job description, although a lot of people's job descriptions look like job postings. But when you have a job posting, you're basically saying, these are all the tasks that I need that are part of this role. We'll take a maintenance coordinator role, right? Address work orders, communicate with residents, maybe communicate with owners, right? It might be on there, but those are all tasks. With each of those tasks, you need to have an expectation. So an expectation would be address work orders. Okay, when? How often? When do they need to, and then it needs to even go further to say, all work orders need to be touched within 24 hours. All residents need to be communicated. Like, what is your expectation as a company owner for your team to do? Because oftentimes what we do is, because, we started this company, we kind of bootstrapped it, we did everything. And it's the whole saying, do as I say, not as I do, because after a while, as company owners, we cut corners, we find shortcuts because we're so busy, right? And so we're like, I have so much on my plate, but I'm okay if I do this because I know where things are going. However, when you start building a team, it's not so much okay anymore, right? So we need to now set very clear expectations to say, I want all work orders looked at, and I want you to contact the resident if there are no photos, or you don't understand and it's not very clear what they're saying, or you need to go, what room is that hole in, or something like that. Like, you need as much detail as possible, because again, what's the expectation? That I send my vendor or my technician out to the property, and they go there and they're there one time, they fix it, and they're there for 30 minutes at the most, or 45 minutes at the most, and then they're gone. Again, see how these expectations kind of feed into other roles. It's not just about one role. It's this domino effect on, it affects everybody else around you. So if my maintenance coordinator doesn't do a very good job, and they just basically look at the work order, assign it to a tech, and then that tech goes out and wastes their time to go look at the thing. I don't have the right parts. I got to go to Home Depot. I've got to leave. Who does that affect? It affects the resident. It affects my owner because I'm billing from time, or maybe I'm not. And so, and then there's lost time and money on the company's part. So it's a big domino effect. And I have another expectation that my technicians are at least trying to do 4 to 5 to 6 work orders a day and trying to get 6 to 7 billable hours a day. That's only doable if my maintenance coordinator does a really good job and has a clear understanding of this is what needs to happen for the work order. So it's all just, they all touch each
This
other.
is powerful, Deb. I just took the notes. I screen captured this slide here. If you're doing this for each job role in your business, when you hire for that job role, you're going to with this in place, the chances of that job role and that person being successful,
Mm,
100%. It's like,
drastically improves.
yeah,
And you know what's interesting? What is the one thing that I'm going to say a majority, because it is probably true, a majority of business owners don't like doing, and it's training. It's not that they don't, they just, again, it comes down to time, a little bit of patience, and, you know, how do we do it? Like, know how and all that. So when you really build out a clear job description with clear expectations and KPIs, all kind of tied into each other, it builds out this training manual that you don't have, like, it's so easy. Like, and by the way, the other really cool thing is when you start doing one-on-ones or quarterly check-ins, what are you basing that off of? You're basing it off of their job description and their role and those expectations and those KPIs. And if those are all built out within the role, it's easy for me to kind of go back and build goals off of that and help somebody become better and build career paths. Like, I want somebody who wants to be so vested into the company and has a career path and a goal to be a senior maintenance coordinator, and then maybe a project manager, and then maybe a maintenance manager. Like, there's all these opportunities. So you want to build that in. And if you have that from the beginning, it makes your life as a business owner also a lot less stressful. So you got to dance
I
for
like
it.
it.
You got to Roomba. Okay. Now we're going to remember that. All right. So I probably am skipping ahead because I get so excited about expectations. So some of these slides might feel like a little repetitive, but why they matter is it does align the team, right? It makes everybody, as I kind of already identified, everybody kind of touches everything, and all kind of that domino effect. It reduces confusion and conflict. That's the other thing I get all the time. The number one complaint, I will, if you want to call it a complaint, from employees is communication. When I dig deeper, communication really comes from, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. I don't understand what Johnny's supposed to do. There's conflict. I don't like getting phone calls from owners. I don't like, because I don't know what's going on. I don't want to, I like, it's communication, it's communication. So it also will improve accountability. And by the way, your team doesn't, they don't want to be micromanaged, and owners, I know, like business owners, don't like to micromanage teams as well, like their employees. Nobody likes to do it and nobody wants to have it done to them. So again, it comes down to, if you set really clear expectations, you shouldn't have to micromanage, and you shouldn't have to like wonder what they're doing all the time. Their job should be so full, that their day is so full, that they're not so overwhelmed, but they're feeling like they're being successful with what they're doing, and they feel like they have some autonomy to be able to make some decisions, because you clearly set those decisions out as far as expectations go. So I did some data. I love data. So I wanted to make sure I had these backed up with numbers, but 69% of employees said they would work harder if they felt their efforts were better recognized. And that has to go again with, if they feel like they're achieving these goals or these expectations in their role and in their job, they'll actually like be more motivated to do their job. They don't want to just work to work. Like, that's not even fun. They want to work to be able to tie into the company's goals and future and mission and vision, right? So companies with clear goal setting practices see 20 to 25% greater workforce productivity, which I would say is probably very true. Okay, so types of expectations. So again, I kind of jumped ahead, but that's okay. role expectations. So really define those responsibilities. I already told you, it's like, think of it by task, right? So, and scope it out for each member: property manager, assistant property manager, maintenance coordinators, administrative assistant. I mean, I can go on and on. Maintenance manager, your director of operations, if you're big enough to have one. Also, please, please, please keep your titles relevant to the size and the scope of your company. So if you are a company of 300 or 400 or less, you don't need a VP of operations. That technically tells me they're your number two, and they could run the company with reporting and budgeting skills without you, and really just report to you. It's going to take a while before you need your number two, but you can, um, how would I try to say? You can basically identify who could be your number two and groom them to become your number two, but you're not instantly making them your number two just because you don't want to do a lot. So job descriptions, SOPs, which really feed into it. So standard operating procedures, again, that kind of ties into the role, and KPIs really need to be part of every single job description. Performance expectations. So again, measurable outcomes. So you're going to have a couple different metrics, right? So going back to the whole work order scenario, I want you to open a work order, identify, and then change the status within a certain amount of time, and then dispatch it, etc. So BDM quotas, NPS scores, maintenance timelines, communication. Again, I already said it, this is the number one issue I've seen in the past 5 months alone as the number one issue, is define how and when communication should occur. And then that really clears up a lot of issues. Again, response time for emails, meeting protocols. If you're not having meetings, those are obviously very critical and essential, and you should be having those. Okay, so how do I build them? So start with the why. I think that's kind of like when you have a task, you want to kind of go the how and the why of that task. So think of how am I going to do it and why am I going to have them do it? That makes it really easy because in our mind, we already kind of know the answer. We just have sometimes a hard time articulating it. So clarify it. So you break it down step by step. So I kind of put that in there when there's a water leak of a building with maybe multiple units. This actually happens. This is why I put this in there. This is a real life example that just actually happened in the last month with a client. And the tech turns off the water and they turn it off for one unit. I hope my tech can think ahead. This is some critical thinking skills. But again, we're teaching people like, is he in fact checking the other units to make sure they're not affected? Like, does everybody, if I'm turning it off for one unit and it's a multiple, like it's a fourplex or a bigger unit or triplex, did the other unit get affected or anything? So think 1 to 2 steps ahead. This is for every role. And so I wanted to give a book recommendation because I know I like to give tips and tricks. There's a book called QBQ. It's the question behind the question. It's an old book. It's the easiest read probably ever. One, because the font's a little bit bigger and it's probably like maybe 40, 45 pages. I have a couple of ones here and I have gone through it many times, and you'll see I have like post-it notes with little side comments on all of it. But it's really good because it's one of those books that kind of teaches you or helps you think through what is the question behind it. What are they going to ask next? If they said this, what is that next thing? It kind of helps teach some critical thinking skills. I can tell you when I first found this book, again, many, many years ago, I had all of my employees of my property management company read it because I knew I wasn't really good at that time of helping set expectations or helping teach those critical thinking skills. But this was one of those that kind of just helped do that. Again, pretty quick read. If you do it on like Blinkist or something like for read or Audible, it's pretty easy as well. So connect the outcomes. So how does the process lead to the result, and make sure that there is a connection there. Always encourage questions because we need the buy-in of your team. So setting expectations is really good. Engaging them to get buy-in is also important, because if they are like, this is too unattainable, and remember going back to the Roomba acronym of making sure they're achievable and attainable, if they feel it's unattainable, you need to kind of step back and go, do I have the right person? Like, these are everything I want in this role. This is all the things I expect and want. So is that the right person? This really does help weed out people. Or am I being is this just too high of a stretch? So we need to make sure we have buy-in and then follow up. So again, that's kind of these, check-ins. Okay, this is new for our team. How is it working? So I would do a monthly check-in before I would ease into like quarterly check-ins, which then feed back to my job description, which helps do the one-on-ones, the KPIs, the incentives.
Deb, we got about 5 minutes, and I know you got
Oh,
about
geez.
50 slides.
Dang.
So we're going to finish on
Okay.
expectations here.
Okay.
But we do have a question real quick.
Go.
For a small PM company, what is best for a number two? I'm already one, but I would like to be more of a BDM while we grow. However, my clients are
Okay.
so used to coming from me for everything.
A property manager. Property manager will be your best number two to eventually maybe become your true number two. But I would lean on your property manager as much as possible. And by the way, that's probably morphing them into more of a portfolio manager because they're going to be doing a little bit more than just property management. So you're basically saying your responsibility is owner relations, but if there's escalated issues, then you're going to deal with resident issues, and then you're going to help, maybe manage some remote team members. That's a good ease in to that. Is that,
All right.
what do
Thanks,
you,
Deb.
okay, so benefits and clear expectations, enhanced engagement. Now I'm going to speed through this. Look, more metrics. Yay, I got more data. Improve retention and increased efficiency. I kind of feel like I said all this. Tools and frameworks. Okay. I could go on. Okay. Performance management tools, like the systems. I get asked all the time, like, these are like 360 review things. These are three good ones. Feedback mechanisms for like getting feedback for NPS scores. These are also good ones. Project management software, a lot of people know what those are. Just to kind of, I have a real life case example here of what they were
Why don't we
struggling
go
with.
through? Why don't we go through the real life case study, and
Okay,
then we'll
all
kind
right,
of we'll kind of end it from there.
okay,
Can we send this out with the recording, Deb?
yeah.
The
Yeah, but
uh,
people are going to be like, what do these other slides mean? But that's, yes, we will send it out. Okay, so a mid-sized company managing around 2,000 doors, they were struggling with high tenant turnover. So about 30%. They had slow maintenance response times and low staff accountability. They needed to create alignment across their team. So this first thing we did was really revise their job descriptions and set very clear expectations for everybody. And I kind of gave an example, like property managers, assistants, property managers maintain tenant retention rates above 85%, respond to tenant inquiries within 24 hours. Like, again, none of this was ever set in stone. So they kind of just let things go. Maintenance teams trying to resolve everything within 48 hours, 90%, perform monthly inspections for 100% of the portfolio. They weren't even doing things like that. So we had to introduce measurable KPIs. That was the first thing. So introducing things that would work for that role, and then implement transparent communication tools. In this instance, we did Monday.com for tracking and accountability. Our team does a bunch of those build outs. And so we actually created a whole, I call them boards, but different Monday boards. So, and establishing weekly team meetings. So that was kind of how we were able to kind of just start really from the beginning and kind of build on that. Basically, build a foundation while this plane is flying in the air. I have to kind of like go back and it's like, okay, what do we need to kind of start over with? This, just to kind of give you an example, is what one of those Monday boards looks like. This is how we build them out. This is kind of how we do on the renewals. Just to kind of say, here's some stages. We do this, there's people can do this in Lead Simple. They can do it in Aptly. There's all these similar things that you can do. Again, I will send this out. Here's some examples of KPIs. So I did it with growth, financial, leasing. I know I'm speeding, maintenance,
well, we also
sales,
on
and
VPM.
questions.
Also on
Yes.
VPM, you can download 101
Yes,
KPIs. So
I
I
know.
highly recommend that you guys do that.
Yeah, these were just snippets. And Kate, you're right. VPN has some great ones. So, and great job descriptions. Well, they're the start of job descriptions. They're more of a job posting. You have to build on them. So there you
Agree.
go.
Agree. Their framework. All right. Anybody have any questions? Deb, let's go ahead and just go to the next slide. I'll talk to everybody about the white glove and the gold glove real
Oh,
quick.
yeah. Yep. White
So,
glove. You can
yep,
scan this
when you're,
and
yep,
then,
you're Yep. If you're looking for for some help to guide you through the process, we do it with you. That's the white glove service. It is free. And if you want us to go through the whole process of hiring a virtual assistant for you, we use a 10-point scoring system. We look at DISC, we look at English proficiency, education, things of that nature. And we do all the stuff. We do all of it for you, and you get to make a final decision. And then if you want to schedule a meeting to learn more about that. And then for the next one, we got John Bradford, who, like Deb, is an amazing speaker. Pet Screening is an amazing company,
Mhm.
and we'll be doing that on January 21st. So go ahead and click on that bad boy and schedule now. And if you want to meet with me or Deb, there you go. And we will send, I'm going to put Pauline on the spot. Paulina, can we send this deck along with the recording on everybody that registered? And Paulina is going to say, of course. Yep, she did just now. Thanks, Paulina. All right. So everybody will get the video. We'll send it out. We'll send the slides out, and everybody have a Merry Christmas. Have a great New Year, Deb. Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for doing
You
this.
too. Thank you.
And
No, thank you. I
I'm
appreciate
just
it.
gonna check the chat one last time to see if we have any questions. Nope, no more questions. So we're gonna go ahead and let everybody get back to their day. Deb, thanks so much for speed reading through
Thank
that.
you. I know
That
I
is,
did.
I knew when I
Sorry.
saw your slides, it was gonna be like 2 hours of information in like 30 minutes.
I know. I'm like, oh, I should have narrowed it down. That's okay. That's good.
It was great. It was great. Thanks, everybody. All right,
Bye.
Deb.